and so just the little things. I think building a company and growing a company, if you just really focus on delivering a badass product for a more than fair price, people will give you a chance. Now, it took us 7 years to get here, I will tell you.
All right. Welcome to the Local Energy Podcast. My name is Peter Brecht. I'm here with my co-host Wade Spear, and today we are joined by Tad Wallace from C3 Oilfield Services. Tad, thanks for coming on. How are you doing today?
Living the dream. Living the
Yeah,
dream. Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah. Where are you located right now? Where are you at?
Right here in Post Oak, Houston.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's where the office and the headquarters of the company is at these days.
All
Awesome.
right.
Okay. Oh, I'm just checking out your website. You guys are kind of like all over. Well, pretty much where all oil and gas is, seems like. But I was looking forward to chatting today. You're a bit of a serial entrepreneur. It sounds like you've built some companies, or maybe this is. But I want to dig into that. But first, maybe give us a high level of what C3 does. Tell us about yourself. What got you into oil and gas?
Yeah. So real easy, man. I'm from up near Wichita Falls, old small town, Burnett, Texas. Most everybody, my brothers, all of us ended up in the oil field. If you didn't go in the military, or even if you did go in the military and you came out, you ended up usually in the oil field.
Yeah.
Both family members in it. I got started back Sanjo. If y'all remember old Sanjo, fracking and whatnot, they were frack coal tubing. Came in with them. Then we came into gas frack, which is, if you all remember, was gas frack was the only company that fracked oil wells with liquid propane.
Right.
So I came up, spent a good few years there, paid a good attention to what was going on post some of those wells. And then from there, I left gas frac to go to a company called Sin Oil out of Canada, which the guy I worked for was actually the inventor and the patent holder for all the gas frac. And so I spent 5 years with him getting a what I consider my PhD in engineering and chemistry, because I didn't go to school.
Yeah.
And yeah, from there, I came up with an idea with him that I took from gas frac. And that idea was, how can we take propanes and butanes and re-inject into the formation to the wells and do wellbore stimulations and remediation, all through using non-damaging fluids.
Hmm.
And since then, it's 7 years later, we're building more equipment, hiring like I would have never dreamed of before. So while the market is down right now, we can't, our utilization is at the 100% mark. I can't get enough equipment out to meet the
Wow.
demand we're picking up.
That's a good problem to have.
The whole company was built for a downturn market. Coming from, Wichita Falls area, if you remember the bust in the 80s, right? Everybody's mom and dad had jobs, and overnight we were all poor and 1/3 of the houses were empty. And
Yeah.
so I always kind of thought, and a lot of the company was built during COVID, right? So depreciated market. So my whole idea about building a company was, I don't need to build a company that makes money at high oil. I don't want my whole life to survive on that. I actually want to build a company that I actually am the guy everybody calls when prices are low.
Yeah.
How can we spend a very small amount of money to get a big return? If we can't keep production flat, if we're losing the dollar value, can we at least keep production flat versus losing the dollar value and having a decline? So that
Yeah.
was really the whole idea about, hey, how do we build an oil field service company that is actually built for the downturn? And I'm starting to think that I may have been one of the few that actually had a technology built for suppressed markets.
Right.
That's
That's interesting.
that's a good thing to bring up. I was listening to another podcast, another oil field guy that, there's a lot of us running these podcasts apparently, but
Right.
Tahano Brown at Underdog Wireline was on one of them, and he was talking about their company out there in Midland, and kind of the same thing. Like, they need more wireline trucks, and the reason is, I mean, their model is built around a kind of a depressed environment, right? So they're still busier than ever just because of the way that their service model is set up. So I think it's an awesome way to kind of get it structured. So where are you guys like mostly? I mean, I'm looking. You guys are in Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, kind of all over the place, but
Well,
like, where's the
right
line
now,
share of
because
it?
we have wheels on trucks,
Yeah.
the guys are nonstop. We've
Yeah.
had units that roll from 3 or 4 weeks straight in South Texas working old Vicksburg welds, Alamos wells. Then we're headed up to, we'll be up in Amarillo 3 days later, be coming
Okay.
back down to, I mean, we're rolling everywhere. We got our first quarter this year, we're operating in the DJ Basin, the Eagle Ford, down south of Vicksburg, New Mexico,
Yeah.
moving into New Mexico with a lot of that CBM. What we're finding out is if you want to get water off of CBM, propane and a really good surfactant is a really good way to do it, and not add more water to CBM, if you guys know much around working on coal bed methane. So,
Okay.
it's really been an interesting take for us. Our plan by the end of the year is have equipment sitting in 5 different states, and full time, going all over, not just where we're at right now, running our guys to the death.
Yeah.
We're building equipment as we speak right now. I was on a call earlier this morning making sure paint schemes were correct.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this week's episode of Local Energy. Please remember to like and subscribe to us here on YouTube or Spotify, or check us out at localenergy.com. All right, back to the show.
So when you talk about having a unit, like what does a unit entail here? Like I imagine it's got pumps and just all these different things.
Yeah.
What's that look like?
So one of the cool things that we've done is we've made these processes of pumping live gases, gas to what do they call it? Liquid to gas fluids,
Right.
down to a very small footprint. Man, we took kind of, you could take an old CNA unit, the cementing and acidizing unit, and we converted over the pumps and the packing. So we have the ability to add diversion and acid, and we do other things mixing with the propane. So yeah, a full unit for us right now is a CNA, almost like a CNA unit with
Okay.
its own. We drag our own flare everywhere we go with this because we are pumping propanes and butanes and
Right.
for safety and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just think of a big CNA
Okay.
unit that's been fully turned around and converted to be able to pump fluids like this. So we're now getting into where we pump acid with propane and surfactants and diversions, and every month it seems like the technology has driven us, and our patent portfolio keeps to expanding with things that we're doing that I guess no one has, or people have thought about doing for a very long time.
Right.
But being able to operationally execute some of this stuff is a challenge if you're starting without that heads up that we learned a gas frac. Pumping a
Do
fluid
you
that will convert to gas on a pump, if you guys can imagine, can be.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. When you're pumping, I mean, are you like pumping down tubing? Do you guys have to run in with tubing or how's
Sometimes we
just
run
depend?
we backside tubing, depending on the tubing hangers down hole. You gotta know what do you have. Every well is different, right? So, our company, one thing that we do, like a new customer, we'll take all the data from your well. We'll take your drill data, your completions data, and we'll start figuring out what your actual matrix looks down hole. We'll start looking at some of the issues good to have. One of the technologies that we're seeing really good results in is gas condensate wells that have been loaded up with gas condensate. The gas production is dead because the liquid's down, it was liquid loaded. Propane is a great fluid that is easily miscible with all that condensate that then unloads that fluid, and you'll see gas rates take off. So
I gotcha.
yeah, we're just across the board, right? I would say we're one of the last true service technical companies that are willing to do different things, and yeah, we're getting pretty good at it.
Horizontals and verticals,
Yes, sir.
or one more than the other?
Not really. Some of the stuff we're seeing in the DJ Basin, we're kind of breaking out up in the DJ right now, and that's
Okay.
all horizontal. We're able to mimic that same data, right? Because the characteristics of the DJ and the gas condensate window of the Eagleford, kind of pair up, right? So we're scaling there too in the horizontal side, and so yeah, we're horizontal, vertical wells. That everything's on the table.
Interesting. So when you're pumping down, I mean, I imagine the propane and the propane one essentially like a frac, right? I mean, like kind of like a refrac, but it's also delivering surfactant, chemical, all that stuff to deal with either skin damage or shale swelling.
Yeah, I mean, it could be numerous different mechanisms, even paraffin, right? Propane is an excellent cutter on paraffin. So if you have a oil well that's highly paraffined up, we can actually go in there and use propane or butane or other hydrocarbon solvents to, like, so if the oil well doesn't have a gas sales line, we don't just have to use propane and butane. We can go get condensate and mix in some paraffin inhibitors and whatnot and unlock them paraffin issues. We see that a lot in like the waxy window of the Haynesville and
Okay.
Cotton Valley area. Yeah, we'll see that. North Texas, we do a lot of paraffin work where they've essentially pulled their hot oilers off the market, especially in the cold season right now. You come have us pump a job, you probably don't have to treat it again for 6 to 8 months, is what we're seeing overall. Where hot oiler may be a thing you're needing to do it, once a month. In the cold season, once every other week.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So by
Wow.
being able to use hydrocarbon fluids that they can buy, then inject, and then produce as they produce the well, they actually can sell that fluid. That was just their fluid. Now, the other side of that benefit is it not just cleans up your well bore, right? You send them kind of fluids and them solvents through your production facilities. So now you also start sending good solvents all the way through your flow lines to your production facility. You'll see a good clean out through using these type of systems.
Hmm. I hadn't thought
Interesting
about that.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good ancillary benefit right there.
Oh, and it's one, yeah. So it's one that our customers, it's like one of them value add things. I think we've lost a value prop in our business. It's everything is essentially commoditized. Wireline's commoditized, fracs commoditized. Everything's kind of commoditized. And with us, I want you to use me and not have to call me back and you go tell your buddy, "Hey, man, we did treated this well over here. The well came back on us, and it's been 12, 13 months, and the well's still flowing good. We brought it up above that decline curve." And that's
Hmm.
what we're seeing on average right now, especially in the gas condensate window of wells and the more of the dry clays where you had a dry clay and they fracked with water. You never see water come back up. You get that water off that reservoir, deswell them clays and change wettability, and you can make a well.
Okay.
I was at a company that did a gas frac in early teens, I guess is what I'd say.
What company?
And, Lynn Energy.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I was on that job. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
all
yeah,
right.
Colorado, yeah, right out of Greeley. Yep,
Well, no, this one was actually Granite Wash out in western
okay,
Oklahoma.
okay, I know the Panda Ocean too.
Okay, but,
Yeah.
one of the big sales points was, I think a lot of the time when you're pumping that propane and butane and everything that you're able to flow it back and go to sales. I mean, what kind of percentage of what you pump are they able to kind of recapture? How much do you normally flare away? Or is that even a part of this kind of a process now?
So, 100% is what we're seeing recycled on, come back to surface. So on every
Okay.
single job, our flare is actually for us as you can imagine when you're pumping propane, you first open up the propane valve from wherever your storage vessel is, you have a
Right,
gas, right?
right.
And if you guys know, triplex and, pumps, you get airlock in them, the pumps, you lose the hole. So we actually use the flares just so we can prime up
Okay.
and get primed,
Get
and
it
that
going.
yeah, so when you actually flow the well back, 0 goes to flare, 100% goes to production, and, you'll see the big incremental boost in the very beginning of the well where
Right.
you see all this major amount of fluid and liquids come back. We see a lot of oil come back, especially on the gas condensate. You may have 30 to 100 barrels come back in the first 24 hours on a well.
Okay.
So, yeah, we've had quite a few, excuse me, successes, especially around the gas condensate.
I was gonna say it'd be great to be able to sell your frac fluid instead of, having to pay to dispose of it, so.
It's a big thing, and I will tell you, like, operators, especially some of the majors that we're working with, for a long time, that what is that? Environmental everybody was going down this I forgot what it is, some environmental crap,
Yeah, the
right?
ESG stuff. Yeah.
Oh my god, right? Everybody wanted to go ESG, right? Well, I always thought that was kinda like a dumb perspective. I thought that we should always be thinking environmentally on that anyways. I thought it was a dumb, let's go concentrate how we could be better. Well, okay, like, why aren't we just being better as is? So where gas frac really was they figured that part out of how do we use these propanes and butanes, especially that were stranded at the time of low gas prices, right? Where there was no commodity value in them. And that's where we also see a lot of differential in value. If I put propane on an oil well, and I had to use that propane to, miscible into that type of oil. You swirl it, you get it moving. Well, we may only get 50% of the propane to come back in the gaseous phase, but you didn't lose that propane because if you actually, charred out your oil, you'll find your C chains
I
have a
gotcha.
spike in them C3s and C4s. So you don't lose
Huh,
it. You actually just get that that oil mobile again.
interesting.
So yeah, a couple of different things we're working, miscibilities. It's a big science project out there, Wade. For an engineer, I can see you kind of like thinking this through. Like,
Oh, yeah, I would love to iterate through that and see, that's great.
yeah, so
That's
that's
great.
really what the company was around.
I just hear like all these chemicals that you're mixing together. I mean, it's like, I mean, obviously that's the ingenuity of it, right? But I mean, it's got to be. It's not like a danger thing necessarily. I mean, it is. It's a dangerous job. You're dealing with stuff that's it's flammable and all that. But like, who's coming up with these chemicals? I gotta like they're. It's crazy to me that you can just figure out how this works. I still can't get my mind past that.
So, man, we're blessed, man. We have Kevin Lang, who's with us. He's a longtime chemical guy, but really
Yeah.
where the ideas come from is like any other idea. You're sitting around, how would we do it? I mean, we got a customer that we're working with in South Texas, the actual same gentleman that turned us on to y'all's podcast.
Yeah.
And, he come to us with this, hey, we're doing these acid jobs, but every time we do them, we got to go in and we got to, that's not the price of the acid job. We got to go unload them. We got to bring work over in to swab the well and all these other
Right,
problems. Let's try this out. So, let's put a little bit of acid in front of some propane.
Right.
All right. Let's
Okay.
put acid and propane in a diverter.
Yeah.
Let's do it 3 or 4 times in a row. And hey, let's throw mud acid in the middle of it. And once again, we just come down as a tech company, as a true tech company, where we want to bring a service provider and bring new ideas and technologies to the front for our customers. And so many times, I'm sure, Wade, you guys sit in a room, man, it would be nice if we could do this, but you don't have a service company to go do it. Yeah, my
oh, yeah.
company is built around, hey, if you have an idea, we'll figure it out. And we've gotten very good at I mean, our safety, we've been very blessed. We've never even had a hurt
Yeah.
finger on location.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, you're checking all the boxes and, cross the T's, dotting I's, all that. It's just, the chemistry side of it. And Wade's got a background in, and I'm just, so every time he starts talking about stuff, I'm like, that was not a course that I did well in. Let me just put it that way.
I didn't like it. Let's say that much. I'm not a huge chemistry fan, but sometimes
if you're grading on a curve, we're okay. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. So I talked to Daniel Purvis. So he's, I think, one of your business development guys. And one question that I kind of had queued up for him is, when you're growing a company and you're doing, and we've talked to a couple other folks that are in business development, but I'm always curious on the sales side, like, word of mouth is great. You guys have a great product. People hear about you from, a neighbor, and then, okay, we're going to go do the same thing. It's a small community, or it's a close knit community in oil and gas. But I mean, what are some things that you guys are doing to like grow? Are you having to, are your sales guys out there like having to send out mailers and go on location and make phone calls, or like, what are you guys finding right now?
Look, I don't believe in running with a lot of debt on a company. I also believe that if you can provide a service and a product that people could either use or really help benefit them, it'll come to them, right? So our sales guys, their biggest issue is just managing the work coming in. When you build yourself around a low commodity driven price tag, and I mean our average jobs to go pump 200-300 barrels of propane on a well with all these additives is underneath 30 grand. Now, mind you, out of that 30 grand, 30% of it is a fluid you're going to buy and then get back at surface. So within the first 3 days, you've already recouped 30-45% of your total investment. That helps move the needle very far. As Wade will tell you, if he can go to his boss and say, hey, man, we got 30% of our money back in 3 days, even if it doesn't go boom, there's been some sort of, regain of capital.
Sure.
So right now, man, the biggest sales things we do is we just go do kick-ass work, man.
Okay.
Yeah, and we do what no one else does, right? Like people see our equipment. As you guys probably know, y'all went on LinkedIn. I'm not the very goodest, the best guy at
Yeah.
hitting what we're doing. We're doing some super kick-ass things, but very few people know. And I think the reason why we're growing is, man, we got a pretty good product. We're continuously adding and evolving certain things like, hey, when we started stumbling into acid and propane, well, I went and found some guys that have this really badass acid software in overseas, and they just couldn't get it to be adopted in the US. Well, hey, man, give it to me, and I'm going to, and so just the little things. I think building a company and growing a company, if you just really focus on delivering a badass product for a more than fair price, people will give you a chance. Now, it took us 7 years to get here. I will tell you, we built our first equipment was a old Kenworth and a 40-horse triplex.
Right.
Max out of 2,000 pounds of pressure. And honestly, some of the very first wells I treated, I just pulled a propane truck up straight up next to the wellhead, put a crossover fitting in there and a valve, and opened the tank and let it rip.
Love it.
And the company was built on that kind of, working within our means and capital budget. I bootstrapped the company from the bottom until recently, where we were able to grow and have data to actually take scale investors that can help us scale. And since having that investment group come in, we've been able to hit the hockey stick and with the right.
So what kind of, and you just mentioned something that like I've kind of been looking at too. So, is like the amount of data, right? So, we have like the company that I work with, we've got 40 years of data, right, that we can look at over growth. But it's interesting to see like those inflection points where it's like, hey, we started doing this and then things started to take off. Like what kind of data would you point at like within your industry to say like, okay, that's where the hockey stick started to go up? I mean, I'm not asking you to give us any industry secrets here, but like, what are some of those things that you've hit that you're like, that was something we started doing that was like we started to see some growth? Or was it just time in the saddle?
That's an interesting question. I would tell you that time in this business, you should always be thinking about just to make it, right? Too many people are trying to get in the oil business and go for broke quick. No. I would suggest oil is about the long haul. Go read the book, The Frackers. I suggest every person that's listening to this, go read that book, and you start to see what the long haul is. Harold Hamm didn't become Harold Hamm because it was easy the first day, right? George Mitchell didn't figure out the Bakken because he did it in the first week. Both of them were on their out of cash by the time they figures. I will tell you about this company's probably failed about 4 times. We were on that verge of complete game over, cash over. Then all of a sudden, some well that we just did a couple weeks before comes in and is like, hey, this thing's at $1.5 million a day. You guys did something.
Yeah.
And we're back at it. So we've been Yeah, we've been knocked on our ass more times than we've won, but now we're winning enough to cover all those ass whoopings.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And
missing.
And as founder, the guy, I don't know if you call yourself founders, but I mean, there's got to be days. I mean, I've been in this seat before where, you're looking around, you've got employees and people that depend on you. And it's like,
Right.
you open your eyes at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're like, man, if I don't get my boots on the ground and get after it, so, I mean, how do you personally, I'm just so intrigued by the story and the growth. There's probably days that you're trying to just like keep things going, right? And you put on the right, attitude and hat and go after it. But like, are there certain things that you do personally to, just ensure that you're able to like perform at the, at your max and just kind of get after that? That's a long question, but I mean, like, are you going to the gym? Are you doing white monsters? Like, what's your secret?
It's funny you say that. So I listened to your podcast, right? Getting prepared, right? And I
Yeah.
noticed you always asked everybody, what is your energy drink? So
Yeah.
I will tell you, if you work at my company, you get fired for having an energy drink on location. So it's not energy drinks. Yeah, we don't do that here. I've had too many guys fall out at 100 degrees outside with
I
White
respect
Claws.
it. I respect it. Good
Like,
for you.
I love my gang. No, man, I think at the end of the day, man, you got to love what you do.
Yeah.
I think also using your talents for the right things. Like, I'm not talented at a lot of things. I'm not a guy that's going to go post. And that's not me.
Yeah.
But what I am good at is, hey, how do we take an idea and operationalize it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
man, how did we really get over? I mean, I'll tell you, there's days I won, and there's days I woke up yesterday like, man, if somebody offered the right amount of money, man, right? And
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
sit
Yeah.
back and you're like, I can't walk away from my child that I birthed, and she's
Yep.
now making her into, is getting ready to hit that sweetheart dance, and I know I gotta let her get married one day, but just not yet,
Right. Love
But
that.
gym, food, all that kind of stuff. But I think the big one, man, is just being really committed. I see a lot of
Mhm.
people start up companies and they don't understand. I've given so many buddies advice, and mind you, I don't have a business degree. I didn't go to university. I don't have an engineering degree. I see so many buddies that I'll try to give them some advice like, hey, man, don't go that route. Don't take that debt. My company, I will tell you, there's not a brand new piece of anything outside of iron and tools that's new.
Mhm.
This industry provides so many starting bases that you don't have to go sell your soul to start. But yet everybody wants to, I would say many times people want to come out and say, look at me. Our goal here at C3 was to roll quietly under the ground enough to where people like certain majors call us now. Like, what's interesting for us is now I'm having the customers that would have dreamed of, even if I was selling someone else's product as a customer. We're not hunting them. They call us.
Yeah.
And I think that's a testament of what we're providing. But I mean, yeah, I think if you're going to get out here in the oil business and actually try to build something, the other thing I would tell a lot of people is, it's easy to build something where there's already a blueprint. If I needed to go build a wireline company, no knock to the wireline guys out there, I have a blueprint I can follow. Somebody's done it.
Yeah.
What made Seath so incredibly, I think, hard, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs will say this, if I knew what I knew now, I probably wouldn't have done it. It's probably pretty fair.
Hmm.
When you take a whole idea from a patent, I mean, the idea came off of a back of a truck one day, right? You surround yourself with the right people to go get a patent, right? And then you can't go work at an oil company because as if you all know, you have intellectual property, that oil
That's
company
right.
owns a piece of that property. So then I had to
Yeah.
take that $1,200 a month I made from the government and live on that for 6 years, right?
Mhm.
So when you take that patent and then you finally get it done and now you start operation, like, hey, how can I do this, right? Well, no one wants to invest in you, so you got to go scrap together old 18-wheeler and a 40-horse pump and pay some guys to put it together and go try. And so we're a legitimate from the bottom. We built up from the bottom up operationally unlike a lot of companies, though I have great businessmen on the board and people that help us with our business. We're not a business. I'm not sucking every penny that we can that we can right now.
Yeah.
We're really operations.
That's cool.
One of the few companies that I'm in the field more than I'm in my office.
That's a sweet spot. I've heard too, in talking to other companies that, as you grow and I don't know if this is a thing, but because I've never been in your shoes before, but you get to a point where you can like almost get too big and then it becomes where it's like no fun doing the thing you were doing. I mean, do you think you'll ever find that point, or is it kind of like we're just gonna, like, when we find it, we'll know, but right, like we're still having fun, right?
Like,
Because
we're having more fun than I could have imagined, right? Well, I tell you, there's days that we sit down and think
Yeah.
about it, man, and there's days you think
Yeah.
about it. But
Yeah.
I think the point, I don't want to work at a company where I have to worry about what I say to my folks. I also
Yeah.
don't want to work at a company where my people can't feel freely to speak to me.
Sure.
And once you get too big there, and then look, it's going to happen. I'm sure C3, if it continues to where it's at, we're already getting into the, like, customers are asking us to come frack, right? We're starting to do those other services because the
Right.
output of what we do. And so I know we'll be there. And when that day's there, I won't be here.
What's something in the oil and gas industry that maybe you're thinking about but we're not talking about? Is there anything that, I don't know, that not maybe doesn't keep you up at night, but maybe something that we should be more attentive to?
I've heard, once again, I've heard a couple answers that you guys have gotten to that
Yeah.
question.
Well, thank you for listening. That's
Well, I'm kind of dumb, but I try to study some,
yeah. That's all right.
just trying to cheat here a little bit. And what I would tell you, the thing that I see, and if I could tell anybody listen to this, and you're in our generation, you're our age, and you guys have probably done the same. You made a lot of rich men rich in your life. I think I did that very much in my life. And I think that this business, there's a huge opportunity for self-employment. With everything that we're seeing on in the country, from health insurances to all these different things, oil and gas is a place where you can actually go make it if you just get out of bed and work your ass off. Right. And I see a lot of people, I'm working, but they're not actually using their mind to open up, like, what are the possibilities? I just took a crazy idea, pumping propane in the ground, and guys, we're building a business out of it. I
Right.
go out every time I go out to location, I see, man, what if we just made that one thing a little bit better? And if it was me in oil and gas, what I think we're not paying enough attention to is we've let everybody think that these big companies have got it figured out and that we're at the end of our technical whereabouts. I would tell you guys, we're in the Shale game. I believe we're still in the first inning. I think everyone thinks Shale's starting to get puttered out. I think when you leave 95% of the reserve in the damn ground, you're not in the first inning.
Right.
Yeah, the efficiency's horrible. That's going to be the revolution, is whenever we figure out how to even increase that to 20% or 25%. I mean, it's just huge.
And that's what C3 does, my man. So and that's literally what we're working on, right? How do you go back into these wells, open them up? How do you use fluids like a propane to be miscible, move heavy oil? Hey, you got condensate banking out here. How do you get it out of the way?
Right.
Yeah.
These are things that we just left on I'll tell you, one thing that me and Reed Gooden get along with well is there's a lot of opportunity for young guys out there with a little bit of savings in their pocket. Go pick up a couple wells. A story that I think every oilman should know our age is the story of Rod Lewis. I mean, if the story of Rod Lewis and how he built Lewis Energy doesn't wake everybody up to be like, any of us can do it. This guy's built one of the biggest oil companies in the state, and he's in the front of the Wall Street, was the Wall Street Journal the other day on how good of a guy he is at, like, exploring, right? So if I could say anything to a lot of people, like, hey, look, they're been in the ground a million years. We're going to be doing this stuff for another million years.
Yeah.
But there's so much opportunity. If a guy just wanted to sit down and take a breath instead of going 100 miles an hour, as we're always trying to do in the oil field. If you stop for a minute, there's so much efficiencies that a guy could just make something efficient.
Yeah.
And if you do it, it's going to be hard. But as you guys know, they don't pay us in the oil field to do easy.
No.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we're paid for.
We're fortunate. I mean, I'm like, I look up to there's so many great people to look up to and talk to. And I think what's been fun in just even building this podcast is, like, making a phone call, getting connected with somebody like you. Then I get to learn all this cool stuff, and you're willing to share and talk and, like, teach others. And I think that's kind of a really cool unlock for people too, is like, I'm not going to say that's everybody that's going to do that, but there are some people that are willing to be like, look, let me give you some ideas. Let me give you some insight and, like, give you some guidance. So that's out there for sure. So,
I think that a lot of folks, though, like, we have a generational shift in our business, right? And no one, in my opinion, is taking a big enough wherewithal to pay attention to how big this shift is. The Shell generation essentially just put the old school guys on the back burner, and it became the 20, 30-year-old man's game, the whole Shell boom, if you really think about it, right? The engineers from the people, it was just a young man's game. And in doing so, guys, there's a huge gap on the forefront of oil and gas right now, where guys are just the knowledge base. I was blessed. My whole founding team that founded the company with me, and I think made us successful, was I could have been everyone's child. Everyone on my team, Dave Zabo, Susan Starr, right? 40 years at BP running their big programs. Kevin Lang, who does our chemistry, he ran Exxon and those big chemical programs and designing chemistry for them. So building a company with people that had already done it, where really what I just had to do was ask questions and be the workhorse, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, you tell me what you need me to do. How do I do this? I'll work. And I think far too often that we're not going back to some of that old talent. There's a lot of really amazing talent that I think far too often, it's shutting down too early. And I think that those people still want to play. And if you can give them something to play in and make it fun and enticing, you can draw talent. My payroll for talent is 0. Outside of my field hands, right? Everybody else is give them a little bit of equity in a fun game and go build something really cool.
Love it.
I think that's a really another thing that people are trying to build companies from. Like, if you're always trying to put your money out on people, right? People can burn a lot of capital rapidly quick. So if you can use all these talents, and Houston is so full of them, Denver, so full of these amazing, talented people that, hey, man, they did their 30, 40 years of the big guys. They got that really good retirement package, but they're only 65, 60.
Yeah.
That's still pretty young,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so they still want to play. And so I'd tell you, I think a major win for us was being able to draw talents. And I tell people quite often, my company was built on a bunch of misfits who just fit perfectly together. Like, we're misfits, and if you put us on our own, we all got our own little personal hard to deal with, right? But we
I think that'd be a good bumper sticker too or just a slogan, company slogan. There you go.
I mean, but I think far too often, right? Like, look, not everyone on my team I wouldn't say we're all friends, right? But a lot of us, like, we have different tastes and talents and things that we like differently. You're probably not going to see us catching dinner with each other 2 or 3 nights a month. But we'll get together once a year and throw down, right? You know? So I think so far too often that people think you have to like who you work with and be best friends with. I'm not saying that we're not friends, but our relationships are built on let's build something bigger, not I need another friend.
That's awesome.
And I tell people, man, if you're going to get into entrepreneurship, don't go run with the cool dudes. You may want to go find the guys that may not meet the cool mark, but can deliver on a professional mark. And I think that's been really good for us. So
Do you watch? Are you watching Landman at all, or like? I mean, is it like bringing work home? Because like that's what it like feels like for me. Like we started watching it, and then I'm like, it's all oil and gas all the time, and now there's a TV show for it, so my entertainment's even, and I'm like, I gotta just pump the brakes.
I watched it for a while, but I do think that Landman's done good for the industry in many ways. I mean, people are like my parents, their sons, all 3 of us are in the business. They had no clue what we do. My dad was military for 22 years, right? The idea of roughnecking or frac crews and 18-hour days on 21-day rotations, no idea. And it's now helps out with life when people are like, oh, now we understand what all that extra language that is not usually commonly used in professional settings.
Right.
It's alive and well in certain parts of the country, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And so, no, I think Landman's been good for us, but I do think, man, there's some parts to it where, hey, you need a little bit of a story, right? You need to get that story out.
Yeah. Well, Hollywood awareness, all that good stuff. I will see if they bring season 3 to California. They might actually, you never know. Just if they can, I don't know. It'll be an interesting way to tell a story. So
my amount of Landman is the little clips that you see coming through LinkedIn. I'm not a big social media guy, so I don't have a whole lot of it. But what I do see coming, I giggle. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
If one of my guys pulled out a pipe wrench to open and close some valves, you're probably not working here very long.
Yeah, it's very true. Well, this is great. I got a lot of people I need to say thank you to for connecting us. I'm gonna get your website in the show notes. Is there anywhere else that you would connect with people? I know you're not really online, but
man,
where can people find
LinkedIn. The gang's out there. My one big shout out was Matt Lawler. I'm sure he'll listen to this. That's my dude. He's a good engineer, really smart engineer, tech guy too. So guns up, right?
Thanks, Matt.
And I think the best way to find us is that I am on LinkedIn. I do answer it. So it's not like if someone reaches out, but I do have some guys that can probably reach out sooner. But as of right now, if you got wells that you're trying to figure out, hey, what is the next step? One thing that, like, I will just say this, 2 of the super majors that play in the horizontal business have found that just using us on their P&A wells, just getting wells off the P&A list, has been, if you think about the value of what it costs to plug a well versus having us come pump on it just to get some production back, right, and recover the well to at least, economically viable.
Right.
And there's a huge value if you can figure out how to work some of these wells and get them off the P&A list. So I would just say, like, hey, if you guys got guys listening that they got well quick questions, you guys are thinking about doing acid work and you're trying to figure out acid on a very water sensitive formation, things like that, we'd love to talk.
This is a question. I know we're like wrapping up and we're getting towards the end of this, but the RCC. So I know the RCC in Texas says you got like 90 days. If you don't have any production, you have to go into P&A, right? I think it's the 90-day term. Do you guys know if it's different in other states or is it pretty much consistent across?
I don't even know.
And if you don't know the answer, that's okay. I was something I was like in the back of my head.
I would say Wade would probably smile when I say this. I think P&A is more determined by how you label the well's status, because there's a lot of wells out there that are status and is different status than P&A, that they're P&A wells, right? So I don't know if it changes across, operators. I know that one of the operators we're working with, significant shareholder of vertical wells all around the country. And yeah, I don't think it makes much of a difference.
Okay.
I don't think they
It's
care
just
much.
it's
I
a
think
comment that I had in another conversation. I was like, I got to bookmark that, think about it. So,
what I would say is go talk to some good P&A guys, but I will tell you what I'm learning on the P&A side of the business is you guys have, I listen once again, is you guys know what's going on in West Texas and whatnot. I think that whole business is an interesting place to examine right now, especially with how many federal funds are trying to put into the P&A side, right?
yeah.
The thing that concerns me is how many wells are we closing up that actually could be economic wells that just, we've one thing I learned from, I can't say the gentleman's name on here, but the owner of a very, very big producer is he never sells his wells because he just knows that he's waiting for a guy like me to show up with the next thing. And in his whole opinion is why are we plugging wells if we can manage them? Well, hey, 10 years down the road, some guy may come climbing out of the woodwork and say, let's go pump propane on it. And it
Yeah.
works.
Right.
So it's an interesting thing, the whole P&A. I think the whole P&A subject is, I don't think we're going as deep on that topic as we really could. I've often wondered, like, what would happen if they put every P&A well into a state budget and you have the state operate now, or maybe not even the state, but the state pay someone else to operate and start bringing wells on that actually can be commercial, right? There's a lot of places, like look at Kansas. Kansas is a place where you got a lot of damn wells, right? And a lot of them are just sitting there. And you start looking like the P&A problem is not just a Texas problem, right? Or New Mexico.
Right.
It's vast, very vast and wide. And I think there's something that could be done there better, but also using updated tech. Well, we were approved by the Railroad Commission with our technology, right, as like the EOR type rule. So a lot of people use us because they get the tax credit back on just the cost of our job. So even if the well doesn't go economic, they get 100% of their money back, but they're trying to avoid P&A, right? So
Gotcha.
there's a lot of things that I think around the P&A world that, I mean, I also own some of my production, right? So I would just tell you, like, kind of like Reed, like I look at some of the P&A stuff differently. I think maybe plugging things way too early. I mean, when you're seeing horizontal wells already getting plugged in the Barnett,
Yeah. It's a little
you
early.
see where I'm headed to, right? Like we're plugging some stuff that it's like, hey man, we recovered in the Barnett max 94% out of a well, and you're shoving them full of cement.
Yeah.
Record.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I asked. I just got a whole bunch of stuff on P&A there that I wasn't expecting, but that's good.
And mind you, that's not my world, but
No,
I
yeah,
can my
we need to
perspective.
find it. We need to find a P&A guy. I got that. Just somebody that does that exclusively. It'd be fun to talk with them. So, anyway, Tad, if you know anyone, hook us up. We'd love to get connected. But
and I don't think the guys like me, man. I'm trying to keep them out of P&A and wells.
That's right. I was going to say,
no,
it's not what you do, but it's adjacent.
Yeah, we gotta have a balanced conversation, right? No, whatever that.
I think the one you all had with Dunlap.
Yeah. I mean, Hawk's a good dude. He's got, it's just, when you get into the technical side of it, or like, people that are doing it for a living, that becomes a kind of a different thing. I mean, Hawk's, I think, more on obviously he's done everything, I feel like, and got a lot of smart people behind him, but people that are doing it for a living, right? They might have a different perspective on it because it's their livelihood and how they're kind of, so I don't know, I'd be curious how that works, but all right.
I would definitely pay attention to that one. I'd be interested in hearing that conversation for sure.
It's good to hear everything, right? So, well, I'm going to wrap up the show here. Thank you guys for listening. Tad, thank you so much for coming on. Just so glad we got connected. Wade, thanks for taking time out of your day and hanging out. And we'll see you guys again next.
Y'all have a good one. Y'all take care, guys. Thank y'all.